1, 2, 3, 4. If you can do all your stuff, what can figure it out? That's how it chooses you.
Hi.
Hi, Teresa Sparks. What's going on?
I am feeling a measure of self-respect.
Hey.
Yeah, after a couple weeks of really wondering what it's all about. And I think specifically due to the fact that I finished my pathology case study a day early.
Ooh, like a freaking adult.
That's right. Instead of like 10 minutes before it's due, like frantically trying to put the sources together. So really just that. It's a tiny little change, but it has adjusted my attitude. Autumn is an interesting time for me in many ways. I have deep family-related, like ancestral questions about what it all means, and they usually come up in the autumn, usually in October. And, you know, I like to tell myself stories, and so I say it's because the veil between the living and the dead is thinning all month, you know, coming up to the Day of the Dead. And those voices are just more present with me, which may or may not be happening, depending on whether you believe that shit or not. But it happens every year, so... I mean, I guess we could probably also call it like the start of seasonal affective disorder because there's less light. Or maybe it's like like psychosis brought on by mild vitamin D deficiency, something like that.
Right.
In any case, October tends to be interesting, and it has been. And the last 3 or 4 days, it has suddenly become interesting in a good way.
Sometimes we call things interesting when we mean bad, but we don't want to be negative about it.
Yeah, when we're trying to say, like, instead of being like, oh, it was terrible, we say, I got curious about, you know?
Right.
Like, just trying to recode that shit.
Yeah, I never feel curious.
Yeah, no, I never feel. Curiosity is evil. My judgment is immediate and unquestioned.
Right.
Good, bad, put the sticker on it, walk away.
Pass, fail.
That's right. I haven't been tired. I was exhausted for like 3 weeks, and then the last 3 or 4 days, I'm like, oh, I feel great. I can go to bed at midnight and get up at 7. That's fine. Like, I don't need 10 hours of sleep. So, that's me. How are you? How are you this fine day?
I'm doing well. I have a family member out of town, so I've had 2 dogs all week. And boy, 2 dogs is a lot, Teresa.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how you do it. 2 is like twice as many as I normally have.
Yeah, that's it. It's like twice as many dogs. It's really challenging. Yeah, the pottying takes longer for sure. Like, I can walk them together, but I choose to walk them separately because it's a training activity. So how is Murray as a stepdog?
He's good. So we've got my dog Sage, who's an English Shepherd, and then Murray, who's a mix, and he's a little dog. He's full of personality and just fun.
He's a Spitfire, that one.
He is. The attention is a lot because they're both used to having the entirety of human attention. And so it's like, I'll go to the bathroom and they both have to go in there and check out what I'm doing. Just brushing my teeth, whatever. So it's just a lot of being followed around, which I like some of, but it's all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's a burden of leadership. They're just following me all the time.
Yeah. Why must you follow me? And then it's end of the day wanting to relax on the couch, stretching out, and they're both on me.
Yeah.
They get quite jealous of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're both attention hogs, so.
Yeah, this is what has stopped me from getting a third dog, even though I think about it literally every week, because I only have 2 arms and I can't cuddle 3 dogs at a time. And that would just be an issue.
Yes, exactly. I know our listeners hang on every beat of my journey with video games, so here we go. I got Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
What? Without me? No! You're gonna start playing it and we're not gonna play the zombie game because you're gonna be playing Valhalla on your own.
Oh, are you kidding? I'll be through that thing in a week.
I can't beat the Minotaur in Odyssey. I can't move on yet.
I think I told you this privately. My Assassin's Creed Odyssey game got deleted.
Yeah.
I was close to the end anyway, so I thought, well, maybe someday I'll pick this back up and start over. So I got Valhalla. Don't worry, we're still going to play World War Z.
Okay.
I'll be through Valhalla in a week, the way I obsessively play. My character's still sexy. She's still a badass fighter. She's still agile.
Yeah.
She's just cold all the time. It's kind of how that works. And instead of an eagle as my scout, I have a raven. It's a raven, Teresa.
Yeah, I imagined that would be true.
But it was kind of silly. I took yesterday off and, well, mostly off. I decided I was going to play it. And in my head, because I can download it, it's an instant gratification thing. But see, the download takes like 18 hours.
Uh-huh.
I was so bummed because I only thought to get it yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So all day I'd periodically check on it.
47%. God damn it.
Mm-hmm. 8 hours left. Great. So I started playing this morning. It makes me feel like a teenager again, playing video games at 9 a.m.
Waking up and playing video games is absolutely teenager behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it so much fun? Man.
I've just scratched the surface. It's a really good time. I'm enjoying it.
That's awesome. Well, I might have to move on because I need to talk to you about it. You're going to finish it before me.
We'll fix it. We'll figure it out. I wish we could play together.
That would be fun.
We could be badass Norse twins, but unfortunately they don't offer that option.
We would be so badass at that together. Are you a melee fighter? We've discussed this before. I think you are, right? You get in there and you tear it up.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey did teach me to enjoy sneaking around. I can't yet in this game. I think it is a possibility in the future. In my heart, I'm a melee fighter. I want to fuck shit up. I want to get in there. And it gets me in trouble every time. I just rush in. Don't know what I'm doing. Get killed.
Yeah. Whereas I'm in the back climbing columns and trees to get a view of the whole thing and pick off key players before I even set foot in the arena.
I feel like this really shows people what the difference between you and I is.
Oh, man.
Melee fighter through and through. Give me that axe. Give me that shield.
No, thank you. No. I send an arrow through your eye at 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Bye!
You know, I do have a fun technique on Assassin's Creed Odyssey where if I'm trying to fight someone better than me, I'll just hide on a roof, do the shower of arrows down on them, and then hide again. And that one's fun. But it feels like cheating to me because I'm hiding. But that's part of the game, of course.
How dare you? I'm not a cheater. I'm just stealthy, okay?
Not a cheater. I'm just smart. That's what that is. I get it.
I have healthy instincts for self-preservation. That's all.
Hey, shout out to YouTube. We're on YouTube now.
We have uploaded episodes to YouTube. I mean, not with videos, you guys. Don't go crazy. I mean, Who do you think you're talking to? If you're on YouTube a lot, you can find us there. In case that's the way you like to enjoy media, you can just put us on and have us in the background that way instead of downloading episodes. We had a great question on YouTube from, she signed it Kathy and accidentally Steve, which is very sweet. She pointed out that the Homecoming Mom, we did an episode, Fashionistas We Ain't, about a couple of interesting pieces of sort of fashion history. And Claire gave us a little rundown of the Texas mom phenomenon. And Kathy asks, she says that the Homecoming Mom looks like powwow regalia. So how do the communities on the local reserves feel about it? Which is a great question. Really appreciate getting that question. We did look into it a little bit, and I think it's safe to say that the Homecoming Mom and powwow regalia, that those two things both fall under the category of, celebratory dress. But from what I can tell, it doesn't look like the mom has any sort of history directly from First Nations powwow dress.
That we know of.
Of course, not exhaustive research. But, they serve slightly different purposes. And it looks to me as though because the mums are worn on the front of the body, the closest parallel might be to breastplate style regalia. But of course, serve very different purposes because that breastplate style regalia comes from armor. I did find someone who looked through Texas University, specifically Baylor, homecoming photographs and yearbooks going back into the 1910s, 20s, 30s. And he said that the first photo he saw of a homecoming queen with a mom was from 1936. And that hers was just it was actually an actual chrysanthemum and had a couple ribbons attached to it. I mean, it seems to me like that's a great topic for a dissertation, a PhD dissertation. And so I was like, well, maybe somebody wrote about that. And I tried to look it up and I couldn't find anything on the humanities database where you can look up dissertation titles. So yeah, couldn't find anything out about that, but great question and great idea. That episode talks about fashion history and how we use fashion. And certainly celebratory dress is a thing that lots of different cultures share and that shows up in a lot of different cultures. So even though it couldn't find a direct correlation, it's totally possible that it's there and I just didn't see it. But yeah, really appreciate the question. So thank you, Kathy and Steve.
Thanks, y'all. Everybody, welcome to the podcast, It Chooses You. I'm Claire Patton.
And I am Teresa Sparks.
And we are real life humans that talk to each other.
About things that we enjoy and stories we find interesting.
Teresa's my friend.
Claire's my friend.
And you're our friends.
And you're our friends if you're listening. Hello.
If you enjoy this episode, please download, like, and subscribe. If you really enjoy this episode, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/itchoosesyou.
That's us.
Go get it.
So today I get to tell you a story, and I'm very excited about it because this is a story I have loved for a long time. At the end of this story, I'm just going to start laughing. So I'm going to try and hold it together. I'm not as tickled today as I have been the last couple days. So hopefully I'm going to activate some level of professionalism and not devolve into giggles. When I start wrapping this up.
All right, hold it together, Teresa Sparks.
I will. So what do you know about ski jumping, Claire?
I could probably visually describe it. You know, they get up there on skis and there's a ramp that then goes, doesn't it J-hook a little bit?
Uh-huh.
Or curve a bit at the bottom?
Uh-huh.
They go down it on their skis.
Yep.
And then they fly up and they maybe do tricks and then land in a swimming pool. I don't know.
Yes, they land in a swimming pool. That's correct. Good job. It's actually a combined event. It's ski jump and 50-meter swim.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. If they were snowboarding, they would do tricks.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm thinking of Shaun White. Is that his name?
Yes, that's his name.
He is a sportsman.
Yes, Shaun White, sportsman extraordinaire.
Protege of Troy Aikman, if I'm not incorrect.
I don't.
Troy Aikman's a football player.
Oh.
No, Troy Aikman, nothing to do with ski jumping, I'm pretty sure.
You know enough about more than one sport to make a cross-sport reference that I did not get. Yes, you described it perfectly. Ski jumpers, however, hold a static body position in order to maximize their air resistance, increase their hang time, and stay up longer.
Is it just all four limbs splayed out? Because I would think that would slow you down a lot.
It's called the starfish.
Okay, look, if you're here for actual information, just know that these are jokes. And that we, of course, know everything about ski jumping.
I mean, if you're here for actual information, God help you. I mean, there are so many other places you could go for that. But hey, welcome. We try and have some information. It's just, not always accurate or real or...
Sometimes jokes are more important.
Yeah, often.
How exactly is ski jumping scored?
By distance. It's not about how high you go. Most of the falling in ski jumping happens maybe 5 or 10 feet off the hill. So you're not high off the ground. The goal is to get far from the point you jumped off. From the point your skis leave the ground to the point your skis touch the ground again, they do a linear distance, but it's not actually linear because there's a little dip and it's like algebra a little bit, but distance is the main idea.
It's physics. They're judged on physics. And they just land on the snow and they're okay. Or is there a swimming pool?
There's no swimming pool. They land on the ground again on skis, and then they continue skiing down the hill. And if they've done a good job, they throw both of their arms in the air above their head and ski down proudly, and then go shook at the end and stop and kick up snow into the audience.
And someone serves them lingonberry pancakes.
That's right. That's ski jumping, exactly. And the first time I saw it, I was like, ooh, look at that. I think I was, 8 years old watching an Olympics. And then I saw another one and I was like, oh, it's just exactly that again. Like there's no difference except in how long they're up, basically. And I was like, oh, this is not something that I want to watch.
So, Teresa, just to clarify, because I'm a little uninformed about ski jumping, it is that pose where their chest is up and their arms are back kind of thing. Is that the pose they actually take?
That's correct. It's the body in a V shape with the skis and straight arms, chest out. They basically turn into a statue in the air.
Death-defying Pez dispenser. That's what they look like.
Death-defying Pez dispenser is exactly it. Watching that, I'm like, okay, I have some guesses about how people started doing this. And so I did a little research, and I'm going to tell you how people started doing this. In 1808, a Norwegian, of course Scandinavian, Norwegian army officer was showing off for his friends. Now, as you might expect, the Norwegian army in 1808 were very comfortable on skis. You're not going to ride a horse through hip-deep snow out there. Skis were the transpo of the day.
Skis were the horses of old-timey Norway.
This officer's name is spelled Olrye. First name, last name. Olrye. Now, I'm sure it's not pronounced that way, but I'm going to call him Olrye because that makes me laugh. And he's old, and he's white, and so he can take it. He's dead, and he's white, so he can take it. So this officer found a big hill that looked a little like ski jumping hills today. It went down, and then it went slightly back up, and then it went down again. And he said, "Hey, look at me!" and skied down it and jumped about 30 feet. Boom! A sport is born. Because all of his friends were like, "Oh my God, my turn now."
I love that this like sport that people train for and is in the Olympics started with one guy just showing off, like you said.
Yeah. He's like, "I think I can do that, and I think it'll look fucking awesome when I do. Can I do it? Oh, I can." And yes, it did look fucking awesome. All right, let's go.
When I was a kid, I was a notorious show-off. And I will tell you now, I showed off to my friends by pretending that I know how to juggle, which I did not, and taking raw eggs and throwing them and letting them hit the ceiling while singing "Let's Get Physical." That was my shtick, right? And I did this multiple times. And then the egg would drip on me and I'd be like, "Oh, yeesh." That never turned into a sport. I just want to say it right here, right now, that never turned into a sport. No one's going to the Olympics with bad egg juggling. Kudos to Ori for starting a sport revolution in places where I myself have failed. I tried. I failed.
Yeah, he did something that other people thought, "Hey, I want to do that." It's surprising that not many people wanted to have egg dripping on themselves as they sang Olivia Newton-John songs.
Yet another shocker.
So ski jumping took hold in Norway because it's awesome. It made its way like a frosty hypermasculine virus around Europe and eventually made it to America. The first modern Olympics were held in 1896 and featured events we'd expect: foot races, shot put, cycling events, etc. The Olympics actually got really interesting after that. Like, the first modern Olympics look a lot like the Olympics today, but in the early part of the 1900s, they got super interesting and added events like poetry composition and sculpting. And they had something called the Pentagon of Muses. Yes, really. It was so cool. But like, the arts events fell out of favor, as you might expect, because no one wants to watch a lady chewing on a pencil thinking for 10 hours as she's writing. I mean, I don't think they like live composed it or anything, but writing is obviously not a visual medium, so it wouldn't be that interesting to spectators. In 1924, however, to the great delight of Scandinavians everywhere, the first Winter Olympics were held in Chamonix in the French Alps. Norway took home 17 medals. Like, basically the Winter Olympics are like the Scandinavian Olympics. They're like,
right.
we've kind of got a lock on all this, you guys. So Norwegians took home 17 medals, 4 gold, including the gold in ski jumping. And in the ski jumping event, the Norwegians won the first 6 gold medals.
Oh,
from
wow.
1924 to 1952.
They're like, "We invented this, yo."
Yeah, Ulrich was so happy, and his statue of him ski jumping, it's not supported. That's why it's such an amazing piece of art. He's not balanced on anything. It's just him ski jumping in the air, but he's in bronze. It's really, the sculptor's kind of a magician.
A feat of engineering.
So 2 of those 6 golds were won by a ski jumper named Birger Ruud, which is, again, probably not how you pronounce it. But his story is worth telling. Ruud was one of the first jumpers to use what we talked about, which is now standard, the V method, where you tip your torso forward to make a V shape with the skis. And he was real good. He was real good, y'all. He won the gold in 32 and 36. He was also an outspoken opponent of fascism, and he was super famous and therefore influential. Because he was an opponent of fascism, famous and influential, the Nazis did not like it. So when they occupied Norway in 1940, he became a member of the resistance, was eventually arrested, and sent to the Greenie concentration camp, where most political prisoners were held.
Wow.
And where, sadly, he was unable to practice ski jumping for several years. I don't know why it made me laugh so hard, but the idea, like, he was a brave and committed advocate for killing Nazis, which, as you know, I really like in a person. So I don't know why it amuses me so much to think that the entire time he was in this concentration camp, his main lament was that he couldn't ski jump. But it really makes me laugh. So he survived the war, and he went on to become the coach of the ski jumping team, because by this time he was almost 35, which is like 50 in today's years. And that's way too old to be landing hard on ice. His knees, his poor knees. Yeah. But even though his knees despised him for it, he missed ski jumping. And in the 1948 Winter Olympics, which he attended as a coach, and I think he was also listed as an alternate. So, like, if somebody breaks their leg, he'll like fill in at the last minute. During that Olympics, he decided the night before the competition that he'd really, really like to jump again. So they just let him.
With that one action, he has now solidified in my mind, my visual is Will Ferrell. That's who's playing him in the movie in my mind. Just so you know.
Okay, great.
How old was he?
He was 35-ish with like leather boots laced to a piece of wood. I mean, skis were not high tech at this point, right? So he jumped again and he took the silver medal.
Wow.
Right? He won 2 golds before the war. He survived a concentration camp, but he said after that silver medal was his greatest achievement.
Oh, yeah. It's cool that he was happy about silver.
Yes.
It should be about how difficult things are, what the odds are, how challenging things are. And the gap between 35 having survived a concentration camp and gone through hell and getting a silver medal is that distance is greater than the distance from gold medal at 23, had a good, healthy, robust life, lots of lingonberry pancakes, you know? That's how we should measure our lives.
Yes. So it should be clear from this story that Winter Olympics, they favor places that experience winter, right?
Right.
Either seasonally or due to elevation. So you need either latitude or altitude to create the conditions winter sport athletes need, you know, to make them really good at some of this crazy, very specific stuff.
I mean, Cool Runnings was a compelling story for a reason.
Exactly.
If you haven't seen Cool Runnings, check it out.
So we've kind of mentioned this before, but it's more like ski falling than ski jumping. Like the angle of the jump is 36 to 38 degrees. And for context, the angle of the sides of the Great Pyramid of Giza is 51.5 degrees. So it's a controlled fall.
Yeah.
It's very steep. The starting point for Olympic hills are 70 and 90 meters. So you're skiing down 70 meters or 90 meters before you jump. After that short jump, it's followed by a very long fall that is pretty close to the ground. What are the materials one needs for this activity? You need mountains and snow. That's the recipe. And this is unrelated, but I thought it was funny and I wanted to mention it. Ski jump. This is probably why I find the sport so funny, actually, because the pants that these guys, the outfits they wear are rubbery and stiff and like a little too big, right? They're catching the air. They want to stay up. They're not aerodynamic. It's like they want to be wearing those flying squirrel suits that people jump off mountains in,
Yeah.
but like the rules prohibit it. I'm sure there's like, you're only allowed to have 4 inches of ease in your pants. Like,
Right.
the material's only allowed to be 3 millimeters thick, polystyrene or whatever, not 5 millimeters thick, whatever that is. Not polystyrene, but you know what I mean. Also, as I watched a lot of ski jumping for this, and it's not super exciting until you find people who put together ski jumping compilations that are accompanied by Iron Maiden, and then it gets really interesting. So
It's all about that soundtrack.
it is. The soundtrack's very important. If you're going to watch ski jumping compilations, put on some Iron Maiden, you'll thank me. In Cheltenham, UK, in 1964, Michael Edwards was born to a plasterer father and an aluminum factory worker mother. Cheltenham, Gloucestershire is in the southwestern part of the UK. It's closer to Cardiff than it is to London, and it's working class. When the Beatles played the Odeon Theatre there in 1963, the year before Michael was born, the paper used the phrase Beatlemania for the first time. So, like us, he never knew a world without the Beatles. God be praised. He was an athletic child. He played football, cricket, rugby, volleyball, crazy, a little bit of everything, and he loved competition. And it was his dream, which may be a common dream among the male youth, I'm not sure. It was his dream to get to the Olympics. I mean, I thought I was going to play Olympic tennis, except for the fact that I had never played tennis before. But I watched it and I was like, ooh, that looks fun. I'm going to go to the Olympics and play tennis.
Well, I have been holding out for the Olympic poetry contest, but they did away with that.
People talking about him as a child said that he was fearless. When he was 10, he defended a goal, and this is football, which is soccer. Sorry, everyone. He defended a goal by, like, throwing himself in front of his opponent's cleats. He completely jacked his left knee, and he spent a couple years, like, hip to ankle in a cast and doing physical therapy. That was it. He's like, I'm invincible. Oh, no, I'm not. Shit. As a 10-year-old, you know? He started skiing when he was 13 on a school trip to Italy, and within 4 years, he was on the British national team. Now, it gets fuzzy because, like, the stuff I found said that within 4 years he was on the British national team, but then that's contradicted by other things I found. So I'm unclear about his early professional/amateur affiliations in the sport. But I do know for sure that where he was training at first was in Gloucestershire. Exactly. Your face is exactly correct.
Well, you've defined that the two things we need are mountains and snow. I'm no geographer or geologist or meteorologist, but I'm pretty sure there are no mountains or snow in Gloucestershire.
Yeah, occasional snow. Certainly not skiing kind of snow. The Gloucester Ski and Snowboard Center, Claire, is a complex of hills, like generously hills, with some kind of low-friction, permeable covering on them, so you can ski and snowboard and tube down these hills without having to have snow. They're called dry slopes.
Oh, I don't like that.
Me either.
That makes me think of, like, painful sex or something.
Yeah, I don't. Well, and I was like, why don't I like this? And I think it might have something to do with the fact that I've lived in Colorado for 20 years. I'm like, you guys can't even afford snow?
You're snow snob, Teresa.
Oh my God, you guys don't even have snow. Just so everyone knows, I don't ski, I don't snowboard, I don't do any. I don't go into the mountains in the winter, because driving up there is a fucking nightmare. So I have no reason to be snobbish about it, but I discovered that I am somehow, so. Given this, where does the UK ski team train? Yeah, they train in fucking Europe, where there's snow. They train in the Alps, where there's snow, exactly. So, do you think that working class people are taking this up as a serious sport?
Oh, heck no.
Correct, they are not, because they cannot afford to. But Michael did. He took up downhill skiing. I think they call it, like, speed skiing, and I'm not sure what the difference is there, on the snowless hills of Gloucestershire, and became quite good at it. He was pretty fast. But to reach Olympic level fast, you need a coach and to spend a huge amount of time doing it. And he just didn't have the money to make that happen. And also, let's be honest, carving the turns on a dry slope is not the same as carving them on actual snow.
And I feel like if you were to do a cost of entry comparison to summer and winter Olympic sports are all super expensive.
There is gear involved in those things, yes.
When I think of Summer Olympics, I mean, okay, maybe it's curling or something, but a lot of it's like, I just run.
Yeah, that's right. I need shoes.
And I'm sure someone's going to correct me. Like, I'm sure there are costs affiliated with, but just in comparison to like fancy outfit and a hairdresser and my fancy skates and access to a rink and blah blah blah, whereas then it's running feels different to me.
Well, I mean, just the cost of a lift ticket alone, for goodness
right.
sakes. Yeah.
Right.
The other part of this is like, yes, it is very expensive. You're right. And the Olympic rules used to be very, very strict that you had to be an amateur, which means you could not have earned or be earning money from any sport in order to compete, not just your own.
Wow.
The rules on that are a little more lax now, and I think it goes something like, you get reasonably good on your own dime, then you get sponsors to pay for your travel, gear, and for your coach once you're reasonably well known and likely to do well in international competitions. If you're not getting a paycheck yourself, I think you still qualify as an amateur. I think like they're graying out those lines pretty quickly. So who gets to compete then? Yeah, it's rich people. It's rich families, like people who don't have to have jobs, who can afford to travel and pay for training and gear on their own. So even so, this son of a plasterer and factory worker was a really fast downhill skier, and he was called up to the England skiing squad basically for like a tryout, but he was sent home on the first day. And listen to why he was sent home. One of the judges or coaches, selectors, whatever, this guy said that he shouldn't be on the team because he had been, quote, abusing the friendship and privileges at Gloucester Ski Club.
What does that even mean?
Yeah. So Edward says, well, I used to ski there a lot. And people would come up to me and say, I'm having a problem here, turning there. And then I'd watch them and I'd say, you can fix that problem by doing this. And the coach who kicked me out said that I should be sending them to the ski school so the club should make money instead of telling them how to fix it. So the Gloucester Ski Club resented that he was helping people for free rather than sending them to their ski school. And so they kicked him off the team even though he was good.
What a bunch of dicks. What a bunch of dry slopes.
I think he was still a teenager at this point. So in my mind, he says to himself, well, fuck you then. I'll do it another way. And he pivoted. So if he couldn't do it as a downhill skier, maybe he could get to the Olympics as a ski jumper. There is no competition. Britain is not a ski, as we have discussed. They do not have the resources to be a ski jumping country.
They don't have nearly enough lingonberries.
To qualify as an Olympic ski jumper for Britain, all he had to do was jump 70 meters. For context, the best ski jumpers in the world regularly jump over 100 meters.
Okay.
And the gold medal range is 115, 120. He only had to jump 70 meters. He decided to give it a shot, even though he hadn't jumped before. And so he starts training. There's a ski jump training facility at Kandersteg, I think is how we say it, Switzerland. And he said that while he was there, he stayed in a scout center near it for like $1 a night to save costs. He helped pay for that stay by chopping wood and doing the dishes at the scout center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When he trained at Turku, I think, in Finland, this is hilarious. He stayed in a mental hospital close to the training facility because they apparently were like renting rooms and it was much cheaper than a hotel.
Oh, buddy.
But this is the thing about him. Like, in addition to being like really persistent and like flexible and like, well, I'm okay, well, I'll just figure out a different way to do it. He's also a really good talker. Like, he's engaging, he's friendly, and he's really easy to like. And so wherever he went, he got people on his side. I saw it described in one of these things as pluck. He's plucky.
Yeah. That's the perfect word.
Somehow he got to Lake Placid, New York, and started training there. And he trained there under the instruction of 2 Americans, John Viscombe and Chuck Berghorn. And Berghorn said that when he showed up, he didn't actually own a single item of equipment. Berghorn gave him an old helmet that didn't have a strap. And so he lashed it to his head with a piece of string. And he was wearing borrowed boots that were so big on him that he had to wear 5 pairs of socks to keep them on.
Oh my God.
So he's doing this on a shoestring. His fellow competitors are like sleeping in the warm and getting enough food every day, and he's really not. Nevertheless, he persisted. His lack of gear is one thing, but this sport is really, really dangerous. It's really dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. You don't want to be entrusting yourself to like shaky secondhand, sketchy, lashed on with string gear when you're flying through the air at, incredible speeds.
Yes. So he's training really hard, but he has to go faster than one should. If you're going to be safe, you're going to increase the height of your jump and the distance you go incrementally over many years. Because when these jumps go wrong, you're just falling onto ice, going going at a car speed and landing on your face on ice. It's not great. So when he started out in Lake Placid, he went from nothing to jumping the 90-meter hill, the tallest Olympic hill, in 4.5 months.
Wow.
People spend years building up to that. And he's like, no, I got to do it. This is it. I got to do it now. At one point, he was asked if he was nervous. And he was like, well, yeah, it's really high. And when you're up there, you see all the way across the valley. Your body's like, yeah, this is dangerous. And he knows it's dangerous, too, because in St. Moritz in 1986, during his training on a 60-meter jump, he fell on his face, broke teeth, his jaw, a collarbone. His nose was pouring blood, and he had no money to go to the hospital, so he put a scarf around his face and just carried on training.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this guy. All of this enables him to scrape into the 1988 Calgary Olympics with a jump that was just short of 70 meters. But they're like, yeah, come on. I think is how it went down. And of course, in this process, he really upset a lot of the upper-class twits heading up the British Olympic Association who saw him as an embarrassment. And if you see a photo of him, he's adorable. So he has these Coke bottle-thick glasses. His eyes are really big behind them. And they're so thick that they would fog up under his goggles as he was at the top of the jump. But he's most time they clear up while I'm jumping, and they're clear enough for me to land most of the time. The point is he looked working class out there. Gear that doesn't fit, second, third-hand gear, foggy glasses. And if there's one thing wealthy dingbats don't like to see, it's someone who looks like they work out there on their very expensive mountains. While I was reading about him, I had this memory of my parents because they were playing golf with 2 friends. So it was my parents, a couple, and a couple who were their friends. And there was a group behind them on the golf course. And I was there, I think, probably because they're I was probably being punished, honestly. They weren't enjoying the fact that I was there. I was not enjoying the fact that I was there. I think I don't know what had gone down, but being on the golf course was a punishment for me in some way.
And has been ever since.
That's right. My parents and their friends were all playing in jeans, and there was this group of golfers behind them who were very, very offended that they were all wearing jeans and were being actively rude. It was somehow an affront to the sport that they weren't wearing pink khakis,
That pisses me off so bad.
I attend my whites only country club, so I don't have to remember that people exist who don't look like me, Buffy. So by this point in the story, I've got a real attitude about these fucking people. Edwards was much more chill about it than me, though. Probably because he's so focused on jumping, because if he's not focused on jumping, he might actually die. So he doesn't have room to be just randomly furious at rich people. The British Olympic Association did not like him or respect him, but the other countries' teams looked at him more kindly, as sort of a phenomenon. And his backstory, which I have related pieces of to you, it fascinated the world. So when he flew into Calgary, there'd been some preliminary press and stuff. When he flew into Calgary, he discovered that they'd given him a nickname because in the airport there was a huge banner that said "Welcome Eddie the Eagle." And he said, "Who's that?" And they're like, "It's you."
Oh.
It's a great story, right? And the press loved it too. We have lots and lots of interviews with him from Calgary, including a press conference that we don't have all of, but this press conference lasted 4 hours, and it was mostly him. It wasn't like the British Olympic team. It was him, which I love. And it makes me laugh so hard because the sponsors after that press conference got really, really mad because they didn't like him and they didn't want anything to do with him. And so he was sitting at a table with no corporate logos. He was just over along the wall and a folding table with nothing around him.
So the fact that he wasn't making anyone money pissed them off.
Uh-huh. And then the press is focusing on him, but they don't have any logos near him. And so they made no money.
That's what you get, you bunch of dry slopes.
In Calgary, the Italian team gave him a helmet. The Austrians provided his skis.
Oh, that makes me tear up.
It made me really emotional reading this. He became legendary as the ski jumper who made it look really hard.
Someone's got to do it.
Other jumpers flew. Only the eagle could launch off a mountain and plummet like a dead parrot. I think that's from the Smithsonian Magazine. So he says, quote, "I was a true amateur. I did it for love of it, and I embodied what the Olympic spirit is all about. To me, competing was all that mattered. Americans and other very much win, win, win. And in England, we don't actually care whether you win mostly. It's great if you do, but we appreciate those who don't. The failures are the people who never get off their asses. Anyone who has a go is a success." Smithsonian Magazine says, "Edwards, after all, did what Englishmen do surpassingly well, coming in gloriously, irretrievably, and spectacularly last." Of the 58 jumpers in the 70-meter event, he just missed being 59th.
Oh.
He also brought up the rear in the 90-meter jump, though technically he did beat 3 ski jumpers who were scratched. One of them didn't show because he'd broken his leg the day before. So he did better than the guy with the broken leg. But the thing is, he's self-aware. He knew his limitations. One of his quotes is, "I'd like to say I flew like an eagle, but I was probably closer to an ostrich." And, sure enough, he finished last, but it's hard to even do that thing. He didn't disgrace himself. He did his jumps. He was good-natured about it throughout. He was funny and charming. And for many people, he became the living embodiment of the Olympic adage, which was first expressed by the founder of the Games, Pierre de Coubertin. Barron, I think. Quote, "The most important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning, but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering, but fighting well." And Eddie put it like this at a press conference in Calgary. "Where is it written that the Olympics are only for winners?" So great. Well, where is it written? It's written in the fucking Olympic rules now. Okay, so in 1990, the International Olympic Committee imposed a minimum qualifying distance for all World Cup and Olympic ski jumpers to bar this kind of thing, that is, hard work and sacrifice leading to enthusiastic amateurs joining the Olympics. Basically, he was banned. They didn't like that he was popular, and they're like, "Get your scrappy third-hand skis off our mountain." So this rule became known as the Eddie the Eagle rule. Olympic hopefuls now have to compete in international events and be placed in the top 30% or top 50 competitors, whichever is fewer. And unfortunately, despite making huge advances in his technique and in his jumping distances, he failed to qualify for any future Winter Olympics. After the Olympics, he was, of course, incredibly popular, and he did well on lecture tours and the lecture circuit. When his story became less popular, he just went back to plastering. He was trained as a plasterer. He's like, "Well, I mean, I had to do this anyway. It's not like I thought I was going to be doing ski jumping for the rest of my life. I have a job, I'll just do my job now." And so he did that job for a couple decades. And then the movie about his life came out with Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton. think in 2015, and he got a boost after that and is now back on the lecture circuit and doing like charity events and things like that. So, I mean, he's doing fine. He didn't make it to an Olympics again, but he's done a ton of stuff for charity and he's done other sporting and athletic events. And he's basically just having a good time with it, which is really inspiring to me. That's the story of Michael Edwards, Eddie the Eagle, and the 1988 Calgary ski jumping.
You and I are never going to be that cool because we like want to shake up the establishment. But the really cool people are the people who just do it unintentionally.
That's right. They're so single-minded that they force the universe to shape itself around them. That's the end of his story, but I have a couple more pieces here about this idea of doing your best and having fun with it, okay? So, do you know Quinta Brunson? So she is a comedy writer and actress who worked for BuzzFeed for a really long time and did a bunch of different, I don't really understand how BuzzFeed works, but it looks like they basically put teams together who like create channels and then like do a certain kind of content for the channel. And she was always my favorite to watch because she's a really good actress. She did a really short skit for BuzzFeed about a black woman snowboarder who wins silver at the Olympics and is really happy she did and is very proud of her performance. And is being interviewed by a white male sports reporter who keeps saying how disappointed she must be and how she must not have expected other countries to do what they did. And she like cheerfully denies him at every turn. He's like, obviously you didn't land that last jump. She's like, oh, I didn't expect to land that jump. I was taking a chance. It's crazy. I'm alive right now. Obviously not expecting Germany to bring that level of competition to the game. Oh, no. I fully expected Germany to do what they did. They do this kind of stuff for fun. I believe it's an ice sport country. I'm from West Philadelphia. I learned how to do this at the YMCA. So it's amazing I made it here in the first place. Yeah. And he keeps trying to turn it into a tragedy, and she's just not having it. She's happy. She's going to go to the after party. And when he tries to get a parting shot and saying, it's got to hurt, but she tried her best, she like literally pops back into the frame and says, I sure did. I got second place today. What did you get? So good. I like her work very much. And it turns out she has a book out called She Memes Well. She was interviewed on Jimmy Kimmel. Wanda Sykes did a guest host for Jimmy Kimmel at some point really recently, and Quinta was the guest. The title of the book is obviously a play on words. Her first hit of fame was when a web series she did, one of the ideas from it got turned into a meme called He Got Money. And it's basically about a female character who's never been taken on a nice date and how she reacts when her date like orders like a bunch of snacks at the movie theater or like displays that he has resources to do whatever. In this appearance on Kimmel, she talks about the title of the book as being a play on the meme part, but also she means well. And she said that it's really like, just try your best. Always try your best. Like sometimes your best is really bad, but always trying really hard is the way she wants to live. Like that's how she wants to approach things. And at that point, I was like, oh, this definitely has something to do with 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, of course. Naturally.
Because, as you know, and as everyone who listens to this podcast regularly should be able to intuit by now, I did not read these books. I did not watch these movies. I have zero interest. I had a really good time reading really funny critiques of them. That's as far as my involvement went.
Same.
And then for some reason this week, I was like, I hate this thing without having seen it. And I was like, maybe, philosophically, I need to rent this and watch it. Because maybe there's something about it that all these people have missed that I will see. Like, maybe there's something worthwhile here. Spoiler, there is not. There is absolutely not. Everyone was 100% correct. It was the worst $4 I've ever spent. Save yourself. But in the process of like, okay, well, let me just review, I found a review of it by a writer, Alex Axe, who's a geologist and writer. This is what the bio says. They posted their notes from viewing it in the theater as they were just drinking and drinking and drinking. I think they had 2 beers and 4 hurricanes or something. They were tanked by the time they were done. 14 pages of handwritten notes that are posted on the internet. Please go find them. The review that Alex wrote of this terrible movie is called By the Bulging Right Eye of Christian Grey.
Okay, I know that Christian Grey is the protagonist guy.
Sure. The thing that struck me about it is that so much time and effort and creativity went into making the movie. And it's terrible. Like, it's very expensive. It looks expensive. And that's kind of all it's got. Oh, that's not true, though. It actually has fucking Marcia Gay Harden in it. And I don't know why that happened. Oscar-winning actress Marcia Gay Harden, whose portrayal of Lee Krasner in the Ed Harris Jackson Pollock biopic from like 20 years ago. She's amazing. Jennifer Ely is in it. Lizzie Bennett herself. And she's good. And Dakota Johnson is also fine. I feel like the movie somehow trapped them in a spell. Like they didn't mean to be in it.
Right.
And then like they got to set on the first day and they're like, oh no, how do we get out? Can we get out? Oh, we've signed the contract and I actually bought a house with the money. Like whatever. Like now I have to do this. I mean, just absolutely horrible. But it's the same idea. Like try your best, even when what your best produces is 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
Like, trying your best is important, even when the result is a terrible disappointment and an affront to literature, an affront to filmmaking.
We are so results driven in this country.
Absolutely. So one of the things I noticed is that in the movie, they actually ran the credits before the movie. Like a lot of people got credit before. And I think it's because they didn't want you to remember who they were after the movie was over.
Right.
And they're just like, I don't want any kind of billing after. Please put it early so they forget by the time they get there. But so the main idea this week is that even ineptitude takes a huge amount of commitment and dedication. And knowing that, like even with the purest commitment and the most earnest effort you can offer, the thing you make might still be completely middle of the road. And then you do it anyway. That's what bravery is. Mm. That's the point. And most of the time, I'd say the things we make are laughable. Like they are ridiculous. They fall short. They're not good enough. And so maybe we should feel okay when we get laughed at. Maybe we should be able to laugh at ourselves. Because getting upset that something you worked really hard on turns out to be funny in a bad way is kind of a waste of energy. Like you need to save that energy to try again and make a better thing next time. That's the moral for today. Always remember, when you're trying to do something and it's not turning out how you dreamed, that someone got a screenwriting credit for 50 Shades of Grey. Do your best, even though it's not very good. Doing your best is the task, and the quality of the product is fully secondary.
Nice. Does this mean I can play Assassin's Creed Valhalla on easy mode?
Yes, you can always play video games on easy mode. That's why I play them on easy mode. I don't need... we've discussed it before. I'm not trying to put effort into that I need to be putting into eventually passing my boards.
That was wonderful, Teresa. Thank you so much. If you are interested in getting a more detailed list of sources for this episode, or just want to throw some cash our way, you can go to patreon.com/itchoosesYou.
Word. Have a good week, you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Testing. Great. Thank you for listening to It Chooses You. Your hosts are Teresa Sparks and Claire Patton. Our theme song is by Bobby Dart. If you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us an email at itchoosesyouPodcast@gmail.com.